Chris.
So,
He's going to show you some cool stuff. All right, that's all I got.
Sweet.
Thanks,
No,
guys.
Thanks, Nick. Appreciate it. Once again, I want to say thanks to Nick and Troy and their families for definitely making this very possible and happening scene. We will definitely be back in the fall for this show. It's been a really great weekend, meeting new people, seeing other vendors that we've been with. Thank you if it's your first time to come out to the show. Thank you if you came out and this is something you just absolutely enjoy. Thanks for being part of this extended family that we call a reptile community and plant community and all that fun stuff. But like,
I'm going to try to grab some chairs, guys, too, so I might bring them in, hopefully, if I grab them. So, thanks, guys.
So a little about me. My name's Chris, EpicStyles LLC. Why not Reptiles? We're right behind the Husbandry Pro, right across from a beautiful looking nursery garden scene. I can't remember the name of it, starts with a T. Yes, absolutely beautiful. It's been a pleasant to look at all weekend. So I started with Reptiles in 2015. Hodgepodge of different things, bearded dragons, things like that. As I made my way through the shows, had a few ball pythons, found my love for Leachianus geckos. I have a few crested, a few gargoyles and chihuahuas that I brought with me as well. But my main focus at our table, when you come by, if you come by and check it out, are Leachianus geckos. Your Leachianus gecko is considered your largest living gecko species. They're also referred to as leechies. Scientific name is Reptile Leachianus. They are from the island of New Caledonia. So my hand here is Australia. To your northeast section, it's a chain of islands about, I'd say, there's like 13 to 15 that make up that archipelago. On there, your main island is called Grand Terre. Grand Terre houses or it's home to your GT or your larger gecko species. When I say larger, you're looking at geckos that range from being 14 to 17 inches long, being 300, 400 grams plus. I've seen a couple of geckos that are in that 500 gram range, which is slightly over a pound, which is absolutely insane for a gecko itself. And as you make your way through the smaller islands, there's your Moros, there's your Pine Islands, there's your Bayanés, there's your Bras, there's Nuanas, Nuamis in that section. And if you're familiar with like ball pythons and the morph section of breeding and stuff like that, the gears kind of shift on this side of the table where it's not there. There's melanistic out there, which is a morph. It's a simple recessive, meaning just both mom and dad at least need to be carrying at least one copy of the gene to pass it along to their offspring. But where the difference comes in is the fact that it's locality based. So like if you're thinking like 23andMe dog, like you're getting a pedigree type thing there. That's kind of a big word. It's a lot bigger in like your crested section, like lineage and things like that. It's important in the Leachianus section that if you're getting into it for a possible breeding reason, you start keeping them is finding your breeders that are very reputable, that are very knowledgeable in that standpoint, that you're getting your information. You might walk around an expo and you might see Nuana, Nuami, a GT or a GTX, or a Ross, or you might see something just like a Leachianus gecko. Leachianus gecko, to me, it has me go, oh, it says Leachianus gecko. I would love to know like what other information about it, because there's a broad spectrum of Leachianus geckos for me to incorporate into my breeding program. So I would like to so I want to make sure I have as much knowledge as possible, so then when I raise these geckos up and they possibly become future breeders for me, that if somebody, one of you or somebody comes out and gets a gecko, that I can pass on that same information, that you know what kind of lineage and background your gecko has with you. The education and just the understanding of that, I think, is really important. And once you lose that history of it, it's gone. That's the hard part. Ball python breeders can look at snakes and they can do the Tony Stark where they expand it all up and make it really cool, and they can see the genes kind of layered out, and then you have cinnamon, you have banana, you have stranger, you have hide, and then they can just look at it and put those pieces together. It's hard to do that when you show someone a picture, hey, what's this Leachianus? I'd like to know what kind of locality it is. There are very small differences that you can pick up on as babies and stuff like that. So it makes it possible to say, it's this or it's that. So knowing that information is just kind of really important on that part of it. So I'll get off like the little highbrow stuff. Let's see some animals and have some fun with that part of it. Does anybody have any geckos? Sweet. Anybody have any leeches?
We just made it.
Does anybody want a lychee? All right, so let's go. Let's start. I'll go baby. I'll go baby here. Here we go. Oh, and this little shadow here, she's mine. Her name's Soraya. This little guy here, I'll try to walk from end to end here. This is a Pine Island Nuana. The dad is the third ever Leachianus that I bought about 5 years ago. And then the mom is a Maro. So it is a cross locality. So your cross localities come in effect. Sometimes you can find them a little bit cheaper in that range. But then sometimes your cross localities, I have some stuff that is high, but I would consider high color. Sometimes when you get to it, you're looking for size in a gecko, or you're looking for something that has a really high color, really high pattern. Those are things that kind of draw people in on that note there. This guy here, he's from a line that we've had going the last couple of years. I really like it. There's some nice patterns, some nice bars that kind of come through in the older sections and stuff like that we have. Now my stage comes in is I have a Maro male who is old enough now to be do I take and break up take my Pine Island Nuana male and place my Maro male to it, because when I get to my position, then I'm looking to I want to have something on the table for everybody. Whether it's a first-time gecko buyer, first-time Leachianus buyer, or maybe it's another breeder in the room that sees something on my table that's really cool and they want to have it a part of their projects. So I want to have a little bit of piece of that pie for everybody. Sometimes you get when I bred snakes, you would find whatever snake, whatever genetics you wanted to pass along to something, and you'd put them in a tub together, and that was pretty much the story. If you've had any work with any like colubrids, your king snakes are an animal that you got to watch when you put them together as they will. Usually it's a female because the females are usually a little bit bigger than your males. That they sometimes will eat the male. They are a snake eater. So with your Leachianus gecko, they are labeled as cage aggressive. Sometimes you might hear that. We have roughly from babies to adults, I'd say close to 100 Leachianus geckos that we care for in our collection. And I have one gecko. He's like a teenager, so he's probably just in a mood. But he's also he's a Point Minier, which is a GT version. And just talking to different breeders and different friends, sometimes their disposition is a little more rough, I guess. And so when I walk by, sometimes they'll hit the glass, or I make sure when I go to feed him or I'm getting out or looking in there that I'll spray the cage so that I kind of distract him for a bit. And then I'll go and do the work I need to do in there. And once you grab him, he's out. He's just fine on that part. They just hey, this is my home. This is what I'm going to do. And then kind of building off that instance when someone's buying a gecko from me or I'm talking about it, one of the biggest things I kind of share is in their habitat, they are forest light. They like that tropical vibe. They live on trees. So you have a cork round and you have a cork flat here. I try to suggest when keeping your leachies, take this bad boy right here. There's a nice seam right here. You can split it open. You could put it on the concrete outside in your garage, whatever, step on it, break it open. I just try to avoid having any rounds in my enclosures. And that first originally started when I had my pairs. So the pairs, it's a kind of, if you think of penguins, penguins bond for life. Your leachies, not necessarily life. It could be 1 season, it could be 5 seasons. and then she decides he didn't take out the trash that time, and it's over. But you just never. And that's the other hard part is so they are aggressive. They'll bite. Let's see if I find a bigger gecko. All right, here we go. So, all right. So we have two different geckos here. So this one here on my right is a Darth Maul GT. She's about a little over a year and a half, I think, if I remember correctly. And this guy here is a Yate. Both of these guys are from your Grand Tier, both going to be these big geckos. Your Yate is considered one of your largest geckos, Leachianus geckos. They are roughly get about 15 inches. They'll have a bulkier, heavier body. Where I was talking about my Point Minier at home, it will have that 15, 16 inches, but he's more of a slender body, not as heavy to him. But so on the breeding aspect, their heads and stuff like that will be kind of marked up and scarred a little bit. Oh, they squeak and bark and whistle. If I remember at the end, I shared some videos on my story of them like doing their little thing, and it's there. The locals, the natives to New Caledonia, in the past would call them devils of the trees, just for the little eerie, ominous sounds they would kind of make sometimes. In the evenings, our gecko rooms in our basement, sometimes if you're sitting down there, like when I pair new geckos up, you could hear them just kind of barking back and forth, doing their little thing, stuff like that. Super neat. But you'll see on the back of their heads and stuff, where these guys haven't been together. I don't have any with me. My biggest fear of traveling with said geckos is that for some reason they decide that that's where they're, is that something might happen, they might lose interest in each other or whatever. I've heard a couple horror stories that things like that have happened before. But so they'll beat each other up. The hard part is there's no direct guideline. A, if it does this, do this. B, if it does this, break them up. So it's kind of under like use your discretion. Play at your own risk, kind of. So it's being mindful of. Yes, I sell reptiles, but I love these reptiles. I absolutely. It's super cool. I never thought in a million years when I got a bearded dragon that it would turn into this type of adventure for me and my family. So sometimes you might. I have one at home. He's lost his tail, and no tail was found in the enclosure, so obviously she ate it. I've had ones that sometimes they bite down here or down here, and I've actually separated them for a bit, and then I've reintroduced them again, and it's worked out just fine for them in that case. But it's not always. Sometimes they break up, and that's it. Or sometimes you put them together, and they're just best friends. And that's the hard part, because like it takes a little bit for the process of laying eggs and filling everybody out and all that fun stuff. So it's you wait a season, you wait a season or two to see if something's going to take place, and kind of go from there. Egg laying wise, your smaller island types, they lay usually between 6 to 8 times a year. Typically, your gecko is going to lay 2 eggs at a time. On rare occasions, you can have a gecko lay 3. Sometimes they'll lay 1 egg. Just kind of varies. Not a set standard to it on that part of it. But then your bigger geckos, like your Yates and your other GTs, they'll lay maybe 3 or 4 times a year. So if you get 3 times, you get 6 eggs out of them, 6 babies and stuff. As long as incubation and all that stuff. So incubation-wise, it takes them roughly 75 days, all the way up to 120, 130 days for them to hatch out. Coming from ball pythons, that was insane to me, because that's a 54 to 60 day window there. So waiting another month sometimes was like, man, this is a long time. And I still think it's a long time, especially like when the season comes to the end. For me, our season kind of runs, I would say, beginning of February, I'll get some duds. Duds, or I'll look at the egg, I'll candle it with my phone light, and it's just all yellow in there. I don't see that there's a little red Cheerio. usually you can see. With snake eggs, usually you can see veins, nice strong veins in them and stuff like that. And what you're looking for on your cresteds, your guards, your leachies, your chihuahuas, is when you have it on there, you're just looking for a little red circle hanging out and kind of roll it around a little bit to kind of find it. And like I said, you can roll around some with your snake eggs. Probably shouldn't do that. But no, that's the other part then too. So the baby I showed, he is about 8 weeks this next week. Then let's go growth wise. Let's see. So those were. I don't have any full-on adults with me. I'm working on having an adult that I will take with me, just because it's like, that's a big gecko, but he's going to be like 2.5 times that size. And so I think that just adds a presentation or a wow factor if somebody walks by my table and sees that. Let's see, let's go. All right, so I talked about crossing geckos and looking for color. So these next two here are just that. So these next two here are cross localities. Where I was talking about, it's important to know where they came from and that information. It's kind of went out of the window on this one here. So dad to this one is an Anthony True Animal, just a bigger breeder in the community, with some really high color, really high pattern stuff that they work with. And then the mom is from Carl Vargas. She is a Sakura. So then if you're familiar with bearded dragons, it's a polygenic thing. So you're looking for your best of your offspring to hold back and to raise up. I've deemed that these two kind of fit that criteria. If you've been by the table already, they have NFS on them. I brought them for this presentation here, this to kind of show off and be some eye catchers. I do this one here of the Anthony True and Sakura. I have some babies from his older brother, and the coverage that he has. His older brother looks really good. I was very happy when he hatched out. But the coverage, he puts his older brother to shame. He's like, it's silly. Their feet, super cool. If you get a second, come by the booth, check one out. If it's they have little nails, but they're not too scratchy, but they're grippy. They kind of feel like kinetic sand or velvet is the two ways I kind of describe them back home when I'm at like educational presentations and birthday parties and stuff like that. So I started coming over from New Caledonia. Mid 80s to mid 90s was basically the time frame before they shut down importation and stuff like that. And so the same thing with Australia, you can't. You have to do a lot of paperwork and stuff in and out of there. That's just because sometimes it's nice. But still really cool that they would go and field collect and grab them. And that's kind of where I kind of, though I was talking about Pier and Cross, I wasn't there grabbing these off the island to say, oh, this was this island, this was this island. And we're all humans, we all make mistakes, things like that. How muddy is something, or how different, did one get put in the wrong tub or whatever and stuff. And so when I hear people, I'm looking for Pier, I kind of, okay, like, I have these, I buy from reputable people that this is what their line is and stuff like that. But that part always kind of makes me like I wasn't there for it, it's kind of hard to say. I would be cool, like, the snake side of things, they have a lot of genetic testing taking place. That's really helping, find out like het stuff and things that are layered in. I think it'd be really cool somehow if that could take place with leachies. I think that would, it'd be neat. It'd be hard because you sit in sheds, right, Jason?
Yeah.
These guys I would have to, this guy was in, this was in full shed yesterday. I came in and it was gone. They eat it usually, but for the most part, on those situations. But then, and plus, when there's geckos, so that's like 30 years roughly. There's geckos still from the wild that they brought in wild caught that are still alive in people's collections today, which is, I think, absolutely fascinating. When someone asks, what's the life expectancy? I usually tell someone 20 plus with proper care. The food I use, the only food I use Pangea. I actually don't, I tried to offer insects when I first got into them. I didn't see much interest in it. I went back and I'm gonna try a little experiment because I've heard from a couple different breeders that in the younger years of the gecko, they can gain some size and length from eating some more insects in that fashion. So I'm kind of curious on that. I might set a group aside and kind of test that theory out on my own for that section. But Pangea, they have a whole plethora of flavors over there. Some of my favorites are the growth and breeder I usually mix in every time. I like the papaya, I like the watermelon, the insect, and the fig insect is probably my second favorite. It's a purple bag out there. Your cresteds, your chihuahuas, your saracenorum, all your new Caledonian species, they'll eat that, and that is a complete diet. You could feed that and not have any harm. Your animal's going to grow properly. It's going to get the proper nutrients that it needs from there. Consistency-wise, when I mix it, it's two parts water, 1 part powder. I've got a point where I mix it in a jug. I think I'm going to start going to a blender, and I want to get some black soldier-fly larvae and put that in there, kind of add some little extra protein in there for like breeders and stuff like that on that end. I'll mix it in a jug. When I first started, the little like half-ounce deli cups, I'd get a little baby spoon, scoop out a spoon of that, take it over the sink, mix it up in there, and put it in there. When we feed usually in the evenings. They're more active at dusk, dawn, and overnight. More of a nocturnal type species on that end. Let's see. Any questions? Yeah, fire away.
So, like, because they come from like tropical, like islands and stuff, like, how do you adjust with the climate, like over here?
Okay, so good question. Replicating their habitat is something that's very important, no matter what species that you're keeping. It's something that you'll look up things, you'll research, you'll watch different videos. And one thing that you can, if you're been into reptiles for a bit, one thing you come across is there's a couple different ways to do something right. One person says this, one person says that, one person says this, and then we all can find the person that says something like, it's kind of off, I don't know about that. But there's a couple different ways. How I have mine set up is we have our gecko room's probably from this chair to this, if I could have walls here, our gecko room's probably that big. And just start knocking down walls and build a bigger one. But I have a space heater that runs in there since it's in the basement. And then I have some fans to create an ambient temperature environment. I have a friend that has snakes, and he has an ambient room that he keeps his snakes in, so I kind of picked his brain. Airflow is very important in those situations to keep the pockets of air kind of moving around. Govee is an app and a tool that I use that has sensors that I bought on Amazon, that on my phone I can go and I can open up my phone, go to the app. The top of my gecko room is reading 81 on the ceiling. The floor right now is reading 70, and then I have one in the middle on a case, and it reads 75. My comfortable temperatures are 65 to 85, because your New Caledonia, I have on my phone, I have the weather app. Scroll down here. I have New Caledonia, Alpines, Alamore, just some different parts, just because I'm dorky like that. I was just kind of curious. I'm like, what's their environment like? How can I make sure that these ranges are good? Because it's not just 70. It's not 75 degrees every time. It's not just 78 degrees or 70 degrees. It fluctuates. They have seasons that they go through. It rains quite frequently there. In our tubs, I have tubs that I use. I have PVC enclosures that I use. I have a few glass enclosures. I'm not big on glass. They dry out a lot. You can definitely set one up in glass, no problem at all. They also poop a lot. They love to poop on the front door. I don't know why. It's like, hey, don't look at me or something beats me. But yeah, I just kind of wanted to get in tune more and kind of just dive in and make sure I was doing the best possible thing. So knowing your enclosures, I'll spray in the morning. I have some I need to spray every other day. I have some that I can spray every 3 to 4 days. And just kind of just every once I see it start to dry back out, I'll spray again. And that was a learning process for me because the room has its own thing that it does to the cages and stuff. And sometimes a new enclosure, I'll set it up, and sometimes I might spray too much, and I'll have to empty everything out because I see some mold or something growing in it. So I don't want that. It's not a good habitat on that part of it. Bedding wise, I make my own bedding. We have some tegus, we have some monitors at home as well. So I go to the store and I buy peat moss. I can buy that for like $3.25, and a bag of jungle mix is like $8, and it's like this big. And then I get sphagnum moss, which sphagnum moss is not cheap. Since COVID, that stuff has went up so much. It was like I could get a big bale of it for like $150. I think it's like $255 now or something for the biggest bale that I could find. But I'll take the peat moss, the sphagnum moss, and then I use Reptile as just something kind of, instead of it just being like dirt in there, it kind of gives it a little texture to it. So when I mix it up, I have a 27-gallon black and yellow tub, and I'll mix it up every now and then. That's what I lay in the bottom of all my enclosures, even babies. When babies hatch out, I'll give them a little bit, wipe them off, all that stuff, and I put them right. Sometimes people put on paper towels. I just put them right in there. It works out very well for them. I haven't seen any issues on that part of it. And so the only thing that I've created for myself in that part, when I first started, I tried cypress mulch, and then I had lay boxes. Well, sometimes the female would lay her eggs over here on this mulch. It's not as giving for the eggs and holding the humidity. And so if I didn't find them within a couple days or whatever, they would be sunken in and things like that. Which now I know a trick. If you take an egg that's kind of starting to sink in, you can. It was like caved like that, and I wrapped it in paper towel. It's sitting there for probably 5 to 7 days in this paper towel, and I checked it every I checked it 3 times probably to see how it's going. On the last week, it had popped back out. Baby hasn't hatched yet, so I'm very interested. Like, is baby going to be good? How's that work out for it? But Cheerio was fine, nice, dark. I can tell that I can't see any. It's getting close. I think I'm probably about a month out, probably. But it's all dark and everything. So something is growing. It's not an egg that stopped growing or anything like that. So that's very interesting trick. But I just happened to see from another breeder online that I tried out for myself. But the lay boxes, I move those out, and so then that basically gives them any point in their enclosure that they can lay their eggs. So it takes a little bit longer looking for things, but I like it, I enjoy it. I'm moving pieces of cord. My daughter, my wife, my son, we all do this together. That's another reason why I kind of left the snakes behind, is that my wife wasn't too much into that. She helped me out when I needed an extra hand. Yes, sis? No, just having hand, just, okay. We're all down there in the evenings, whether we're going through and just spraying that night, whether it's, oh, hey, we need to check these 4 or 5 pairs, because on the end of their enclosure, I have an index card that shows what the pair is, what the locality is, and then I have another index card that's facing the opposite way that I write down when I've collected eggs from them. Because roughly their egg cycle is going to be about, I would say, every 4 weeks to every 6 weeks, roughly in that range is what you're looking at. I have a pair that she lays twice a year. Usually it's 8 weeks apart. She'll lay in May, and then she'll lay again in either July or August. Once that takes place, kind of. I saw somebody else had a question over there. Okay, thought somebody else raised their hand. Let's see. Where was I going? Don't know. Yes.
Do you adjust their size of enclosure based on their size?
Okay. So this guy here, first guy I got out, he is in a 6-quart tote. 6-quart tote stays until let's see, a little big. Oh, there you go. Here's a gecko in shed. So I'll bring that around because that's kind of cool. These two are siblings, same clutch mates. I would say it's a little bit in between these two ranges. What you're looking for grammage wise usually is I'm in that 30 to 35 grams is where I'm moving up, moving a gecko into a larger enclosure. Now, the biggest thing, do you want to go on that side and walk in the front and then go around the side and kind of show people so they can see? The biggest thing on my end for moving things up is I want to make sure they're comfortable. We always want to make sure we give proper space and stuff like that. But a crazy weird thing about these guys, they like a smaller, not compacted into a little small deli cup for the rest of their life, but they like a smaller environment. That makes them feel very comfortable, that makes them feel very, very safe, and they eat very well. So sometimes you might move a gecko up into a larger enclosure, and it might not eat as frequently or as well. It's just a little stressed out in that environment. So if you notice that, you can move it back down into a smaller enclosure, maybe give it a little bit more time, or maybe find a little smaller enclosure that you can keep them in. So this one I have in my hand here, it has its little lab coat on, you can tell. It's going through its shed process. My friend Troy, his son has one.
Yep.
Peanut still, right?
Peanut.
Yeah, that's cool. Is Peanut bigger than this yet?
Yeah.
Oh, I love that. That's so cool. I'm gonna have to message Michael for some pictures.
Do you have like a bowl of water in the cage or something?
So with my babies, I just miss. Usually, every time I go to open their cage, I find poop in the water, and so I'll just miss, and they'll drink off the sides. They'll drink off the foliage that I have in there and stuff for them on that part. But the adults, I do have the ceramic like dog dish type things in there. I have that in there for them for water. Like right now, since I'm gone, I filled those all the way up. Your older geckos seem to drink a little bit more water in that process. How can you tell if they're happy? So the things that I'm looking for them being happy is if they are out and active in their cage. Obviously it requires me going down there in the evenings and checking on them and stuff like that. Another thing I'm looking for is just like on their sides here, they are wrinkly, so it takes a little bit to get used to. Make sure they're eating properly, and that I'll monitor like when new geckos hatch out and things take place like that, making sure they're taking in their food. We enjoy it. So we handle them frequently. We go downstairs and check them out. We're going to get this one out and check it out. Because that's always someone's question when it's someone new getting into the hobby or new to a species is how handleable is it? And takes it to another level when it's something you can kind of hold and you can kind of bond with and you feel like you have a relationship with it. So I would say these guys are very, very friendly on that part. And like going back, I was talking about they can be like cage aggressive, creating a nice environment where they don't have that need to feel like they have to be a big bad bully. And so I would feel their disposition is very, very easy to come by once you kind of start keeping them and learning their behavior and stuff. Right, there you go. Yes?
I have a question, and she doesn't have to answer, but I'm curious if she has any tips for like kids who are getting into this, or if she's a favorite one that's good for the kids?
Do you have a like gecko or just reptile in general? We have.
I'll take whatever she wants to talk about.
Do you have a favorite reptile, sis? All of them? What if one of your friends at school, what if Zeke or Tatum, what if they wanted to get a reptile? What reptile would you want them to get? You don't know? I would say she really likes these guys at this size. The bigger ones, just because it's a sensory thing, sometimes the nails are a little pokey in that fact, so she kind of shies away from holding some of the bigger ones, but she liked this size, and probably the other color ones that I had going around were just in her wheelhouse, but like the bigger ones, sometimes she shies away from those on that part of it. She really likes her tortoises. Those are fun, very favorite reptile you like is a gecko? Okay, I like that. I dig that.
I just think it's so cool that she's up here, like, showing everything off.
Right? No, thank you. Appreciate it. She was bugging me earlier. Like, I got some small ones let you carry. I just know you're not the. She's like, I'll carry that. I promise. You know. So I just wanted to make sure that we're displaying things in a good way and all that fun stuff. Some other things outside of leachies I talked about. We have some chihuahuas. So these are also you have mainland. They're called mainland chihuahuas and Pine Island. So both of these are Pine Island. Their tail is significantly longer. It's pretty instant. They love. Sometimes you can catch them in their enclosure, like hanging on it, kind of like maybe a monkey would have or something like that, which is really neat. Oh, another fun fact. So your chihuahuas, your guards, and your leachies can all drop their tail and they can regrow it. Your crested, unfortunately, he ends up with duck, which I think is really cute sometimes. But it's very fitting on that part of it. So these are chihuahuas. They are Pine Island. So this is a full-grown adult here, and this baby is from roughly I think August. I think if I was to go back and look at it, it was when it was hatched. No, July. Sorry. Same. These guys would be found on not the mainland, and you find them found on the Isle of Pines, where you would find them there. Yeah. How do they climb? So their feet are like super here. You want to stick your hand up for me real quick? You stick this hand out. Hey, right, stick your hand out just like this, so you can show her. Stick your hand out just like that.
Do it now. Stick your hand up.
So you can feel their hand is it's like grippy, grounded. It's like a weird grippy texture. It kind of grabs onto you. I thought it here. I bet you. There you go. Let's test this wall. Will we go here? Let's go.
Oh, yeah.
Big boom.
Oh, yeah, we did.
Yeah, I cheated back there. There was definitely some cloth on that bad boy there. And that goes for your garbs, your leachies, your cresteds, your Saracen norms, or all that sticky type of pad that kind of goes with them. Okay, that's a good question. So in my experience of working with them, I've worked primarily with leachies and I have a few cresteds. Cresteds are a little derpy, they're exciting and fun, but they can be a little quick at time. My leachies, they're gonna get where they're gonna go, they're gonna take the time. They go through little phases. Little guy, he likes to do a little water walk like this. The medium size, that's when they get a little bit jumpy, and it's cute because you'll see them load their legs up, and they'll be like, all right, we're gonna go for this thing. And then the bigger ones, sometimes it shows. I don't do it this shirt has like a little pull away thing or whatever, like a normal shirt on. I'll have one just sitting on my shoulder. It'll work its way down in the middle of that. I think there was one shot that it was on me for like 3 hours at the show, just like hanging out, which was that, just a little couch potato. But I've worked with some Saracen norms, another new Caledonian type species. My wife's not a big fan of them for the fact that every time we open the enclosure, it's like, I'm getting out of here. I'm going. I'm ready. I'm bolt action, ready to go. And that's kind of I'm sure working with them a little bit more and getting them socialized and stuff like that. So I got them. They're kind of juvies right now. I have this baby at the bottom from a breeder when I was at a show in Minnesota. And so just kind of expanding my gecko horizons and finding another species that I enjoy just as much as my Leachianus geckos on that part. And then let's see, crested and a guard. There you go. And then you have a crested. Cresteds are very, very popular, very common. when I started to get into geckos, I had a few. I had a lily white for a bit. I actually just parted with him. Just kind of slowed down my crested section because I want my main focus to be my Leachianus geckos. There's a lot of great people out there that work with cresteds, and so I'm gonna let them do their thing. That's not my space. They've been in that space for a long time. Another club. Has anybody heard of Morph Market? Okay, so Morph Market is like the online a good selling point for people that are in the hobby and stuff like that. And so when I first got into Leachianus Gecko, I realized it was something I wanted to breed. Looking at the numbers on there, there was roughly like 70 to 100 Leachianus geckos posted on there. Fast forward 5 years, now I think this last weekend or so, when I looked, there was roughly, I think there was like just over 600 Leachianus geckos out there now, which is good. I like that. For my hobby and my line of stuff, it's exciting because that means other people are getting interested. More people are getting into the hobby. Like you go on there and look at the whole python, there's a bunch on there. Okay, but you gotta cycle through and see what you're looking finite of. Is this a person looking for a breeder? Is this person looking for a pet? So seeing those numbers grow, I'm very happy with. Because sometimes I go to shows and people come by my table and I have a bunch of them and I go, oh, what is that? And kind of keep walking. And so I try to, when I hear that, I'm like, oh, it's a Leachianus gecko. They're the biggest gecko we have and stuff. And kind of share some facts and knowledge on that end. But well, I have a few more minutes left to make some questions. You're more than welcome to ask me here. If you think of something while you're walking around the show, feel free to stop by and ask away. Thanks for hanging out and taking the time to come in and check this all out. Hopefully, learned some things, checked out some stuff, and brought some interesting points. Yeah. Difficulty-wise, okay, so I'll start by prefacing saying, okay, care-wise, on my first question, have you ever cared for a crested or have you cared for a gargoyle? And that point when I'm at the table. And if someone tells me yes, I go, well, you're in luck because it's the exact same thing. Just the price point is a little different to enter on that range. So going from tegus and savages and stuff like that, you got your ground big kind of awesome animals. We have some tegus at home, so that's awesome. So then in breeding wise and selling stuff, I've never had anybody reach. Maybe it was a mistake made on there, but I've never had anybody reach out to me and said, hey, you sold me a bad animal. This animal didn't make it for this reason. So on the durability fact, as long as they are, the biggest thing I stress, going back to temperature, I don't provide any heat of any sort other than like the room ambient temperature. You're creating there is you're looking for that room temperature. That heat, if you're adding heat, sometimes, especially with babies and juveniles, can really stress them out. Even like you're like a UVB, like can possibly do that. If you really want to add a light and you're trying to make it use bioactive, they have some light plants in there. Your grow light, that should be perfectly fine for them. I've seen setups and stuff like that for them in that situation. But care and getting them set up, smaller cage is always best. And like I tell people, no question, you get something from me. And even when somebody has something, I'm always open to giving pointers and tips. No question is a silly question. You have my attention, and I would love to talk to you about something. Especially if you've got something for me, you bought something of mine, I am now indebted to you. And I want to, whether it's, hey, this cage was big enough for it, or hey, I'm kind of curious as to a couple days. Feeding wise, we feed every 3 to 5 days roughly. It's not an everyday feeder. We went to Florida for a whole week. We have snakes, lizards, all that stuff. These guys I was super nervous about. It was my first time leaving them 2 years ago that long. I sprayed everybody, I stayed on top of feeding schedules and stuff like that, leading up to it. Everybody was just fine when I got back on that end. So, thank you. Thanks for asking. Can gargoyles? Yeah, gargoyles can climb up there. Any other questions? Where's my tip? So when you walk in the doors here, you'll see Husbandry Pro, and if you keep walking between, what was the name of that beautiful? Tagawa. It's the beautiful plant section right as you walk in. There'll be purple tablecloths facing kind of towards the back door. Yeah, you're very welcome. Thank you guys so much for your time. Thank you. Appreciate it.